Anyways, today's analysis I thought on EU was very clean. It was a lot cleaner than what was going on yesterday, or what was going on, yeah, yesterday and Friday. Yesterday and Friday looked a little weird to me. Today was a lot cleaner, I thought. I even thought the first buys coming out of London were some of the cleanest buys, you could pretty much see within the market. And the reason for that being is it just fit the retail deception ideology perfectly, right? And I'm going to talk about that a little bit more in today's call. On top of that, based on the core concepts of what I've been showing you guys in pretty much every single breakdown between external and internal liquidity, this fit the whole thing perfectly for the most part, right? So yeah, unfortunately, I did not trade any EU today. I fell asleep around these shorts here. I was awake for all this. I closed my eyes for 2 seconds at like 8:15 a.m. and then all of a sudden I passed out till like 1 in the afternoon, New York Eastern time. So I was like, all right, I guess I missed every single EU trade today. However, before I got on my plane, I was able to hop into these. Right, that's the beauty. I guess that's the beauty of forex, right? Is that I was able to catch some gold shorts, before getting onto my plane, and that was pretty much the only trade that I took in today's session for the most part. And we'll go over these gold shorts later, but I'm sure you guys can already understand as to what's catalyzing the gold shorts, and that's this daily sweep that we're having right here. And that's what allowed me to get these shorts like right before the London session pretty much opened, right before I got on my plane. I wish I didn't fall asleep during EU, but it's just unfortunate. Anyways, what was driving EU for the most part coming into today's session? Well, what we know already from a 5-day look back, right? If we're looking just 5 days before today, right, we can see that EU had a high time frame sweep, a daily high time frame sweep. Right, if we're looking right back out on the daily, usually we want to play time frame the time frame for the most part, right? So once we have this daily sweep right here, we want to be aiming for these lows right here. That's why you guys see me posting on my Instagram, road to 1 to 100. In reality, we could be aiming for these lows right here after the sweep of these highs, right? Somewhat, this is EQD right here. This is a very powerful inducement, right? Very powerful grab of liquidity, which is pretty much catalyzing this move to go further down. I don't see why this will be making its way all the way back up. It is possible from a fib perspective. We did come and hit just around below the 50, but it's not really that important. What I'm finding more important here is on the 4 hour. We need to sweep these EQD previous day lows, right, in order to pretty much catalyze and move higher. So overall, I want to remain my bias short, right, from the high time frame perspective. We go into the 15-minute chart now. We want to look a little bit more intraday, right? There was all good reason to start buying out of Asia into London, right? And then I'll start describing as to what was happening here. But in yesterday's session, we were constantly grabbing the low of the day, right? It wasn't till post NY that we actually swept the lows of the day, and then we started to move higher. Anyways, what was interesting about EU today was actually the internal liquidity buildup and the type of deception it was designing, per se. It's not really something I go over that much in the core concepts in the videos that I show you guys, but over time, I think you guys will have a pretty good understanding of how I view it. If you actually click on to RSD Trading Styles story today, he had a fairly similar setup as to what I had. He was looking a little bit more introspective on the 1 minute, where I just kept everything a little bit more simple on the 15-minute. But basically, what's going on today's intraday session is that we swept external liquidity right here, right? Because these are the low of the days. So we know coming into this session right here that we should be buying, right? So we know our intraday perspective is to remain long really until we sweep some sort of external liquidity, such as these current highs of the day, or this right here, which is the previous day highs, which is also external liquidity. So the only 2 points of external liquidity we have from this point here, right? So from here, we need to be sweeping this in order to continue this daily high time frame perspective, right? On top of that, let's go into here and let's get very introspective about this setup and really understand and depict what's going on here. All right, so coming into the Asia right here, we have a higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low. It was not a bad idea to go ahead and take this. I was looking at it last night on my phone when someone was bringing it up. I didn't remember this right here, but that was correct. You could have taken first these buys here and then these buys here. Absolutely, is this the better and more higher probable setup? I'm about to explain why, but I would have also taken these as well. You know, I'm a little aggressive. You know, it has the ability to pop from here. I don't really want to miss that opportunity. A 1% or a 0.5% loss is not going to kill me over something that might gain like a 1 to 5 or higher, right? To recover all of that loss. Um, anyways, retail deception. Why is this important here? And what does retail deception tell us about this setup specifically? Well, basically, right here, when we're making higher highs and higher lows, notice this is the inducement that got destroyed by this candle right here. We can see there was a ton of momentum that just shot through um, this high. What is retail seeing? Right? Retail knows that this is resistance that turns what? Support. So notice here's retail loading up. You can see that retail is loading up on this break and retest like pattern, and they're just shooting through now the Asian highs, which are now acting as what? Minor inducement, because this is internal liquidity. You can have the idea that this is invalid because you know retail was buying here. You know this is the trap, and this is where we're really going to buy. Right? So hopefully that makes a little bit more sense now as to what retail deception really is. If we go into the 1 minute, it might actually be a little bit cleaner in terms of seeing the actual rejection. But we can see here, resistance line that now turns support. On the 1 minute, you can kind of see manipulation of this lower trend as well. Right, so you can clearly see that there was some manipulation coming in down here. Should we or could have we gotten buys around this area? Probably, but it wouldn't be anything that I would force because again, you're playing with retail here. Wouldn't be smart necessarily to play with retail. However, you know, once we're patient, we wait for a price to trap all of retail right here. We tap into this POI, and that's what caused this to run. I would say this is one of the cleanest setups I have seen in such a long time. It was just a perfect reaction. You can clearly see that this was the correct area to buy as all of this momentum kicked in so gradually and smoothly. Right now, we're clearly making higher highs and higher lows with the cleanest legs, right? When price is making very clean price action like that, generally the setups and mitigations mitigate a lot more frequently. Anyway, so that was pretty much what was going on out of the Asia into London. Now that we understand that we were just playing internal liquidity right here, right? We still are seeking what? External liquidity. So we know not to completely liquidate our position here, right? We know we can take partials here. You know, I'd still recommend taking like 70% full, 70% volume partials. Reason why is because again, we still have the ability to reverse here, and we do not want to leave money on the table. Anyways, we can still be looking for continuations around this area. However, there was just nothing to show us that we were able to grab continuations. Let's go back to this retail deception like thing I was talking about before. Notice how on here, we clearly had that break and retest. There's retail getting in here. So all we need to understand is that retail needs to get taken out, right, in order for price to go higher. There's one piece of confluence. What's the next piece of confluence? Next thing I see is this trend line, intraday trend line coming in that clearly got manipulated as well, right? On top of that, we have that core concept. This is internal liquidity, right? Which gave us this POI down here. Now, a lot of you are saying, yeah, it didn't get tapped. It didn't get tapped. You're right. My limits probably would not have gotten tapped, but can you understand as to why it went up, sure. I mean, we had this manipulation. This is still all fair value gap, right? All price needs to do is mitigate fair value gap. So you're probably like, well, Ben, how do you get the position then at that point? Well, then if we can't go by some of the core concept entries, then yes, we do have to hop into the 1 minute. And this is where we do have to bring up those fractals and see if we can get some sort of position in there, right? We come in, we see this is the breaker structure where it was the last to sweep, the last candle to sweep. Probably be this right here, but it doesn't look like price came back to that refinement. This one right here also occurred, right? This was the last to sweep, but it doesn't look like we would have hit our, well, actually, it does. I didn't even see this when I was first looking at it. Here's that breaker structure. This candle right here was the last to sweep. This would actually be our refinement. Perhaps we wouldn't have gotten tapped there. Maybe we could have, right when that candle came to retest. This right here had that break, right, caused by this candle to cause the sweep. All this right here, right? This would have been that final refined fractal entry that we could have gotten if we weren't able to grab any of that fair value that was down here. And yeah, we're just aiming for the highs of the days at first, and of course that external liquidity. So we would have already hit around a 1 to 10 with this type of fractal entry here. What else do we have? So we could see the price was very clean today. The bias was, not that confusing as other days have been, right? And generally when the bias is clear, it's pretty or fairly simple to trade. Some of y'all did pretty well today. I saw a lot of your screenshots and that made me pretty happy to see. But that was, oh no, we still have more. Beyond these continuations, we had these shorts right up here. I completely forgot about it. These were probably also they were just as valid as anything else I was seeing today, right? Let's do a quick little recap of what just happened in Asia and London again. Well, here's that external liquidity sweep, right? That caused bullish momentum to enter in to the Asia into London, right? Retail got trapped all right here. All the main buyers stepped in to this internal liquidity boost right over here, right? We came and induced previous internal liquidity, right? And when we induced previous day internal liquidity, we knew to take continuations based off of the last external sweep. We know not to continue our high time frame bias until we sweep some sort of external liquidity. So with that being said, when we swept the high of the days here, remember it is still eminent for a continuation. However, we know a reversal is still possible due to our high time frame bias. So that's why we were able to hop into these over here, and that was caused by going to the 13-minute. By this bearish engulfing here, we know not to take that full candle, right? Because this candle right here didn't completely engulf that wick. But we know that this is all possible right here because the body caused a evening star, as we would call it. Could have we had a 13-minute refinement on simply just the 13-minute? Sure. Right? All you have to do is take that inner wick of the candle that caused the engulfing, right? That could have been your refinement. You could have gotten a nasty RR on this trade right here into the shorts, right? So you would have had around a 1.8 SL. And then you would have shorted that all the way down to the trend line right here, right? And that's a decent 1 to 20. And that's not even going all the way into the M1. Could have we taken an M1 refinement? I'm sure we could have. Let's take a look and see if it gave us anything. In reality, this was the last sweep, and then this was the last sweep as well. So it was very possible that we would have hit SL on this original trade here. And then this one right here would have been the second entry based off of the last candle sweep. And this was the last candle sweep here. So those were our only two viable options. So it looks like the 13-minute automatically refined us to the correct M1 area. All right, well, that's pretty much what EU had today, right? So we had these buys, right? You could have taken these first buys, maybe SL'd. These second buys, we just understood the explanation a little bit more clearly due to this understanding of retail deception, that break and retest right there. Right, here's that another example of that break and retest,
Deeper.
right? We can see right here.
Retest. Oh, forward page. Oh, wait. That's an ad. We can retest.
There we go. All right. So yeah, this break and retest right here validated these buys, right? Came into here. We knew to be looking for continuations based off of the internal liquidity or previous day internal liquidity, right? Then we came up, we swept the high of the days, right? Or the high of the day, right? And we knew that the shorts were valid due to the high time frame bias. And then we came right back down into these continuation area right here with a bunch of manipulation that was present. And for me, my entries would have been the M1 refined or the refined M1 entries right here with the fractals. So yeah, is anybody confused on any of these positions for the most part? But yeah, if not, then we can probably look at gold for a little bit as well. I can explain the
I got
only.
a quick question.
What's up?
Regarding on the 13 minutes when you took that entry for the sweep, is there something you look for in order to like get that entry, like when you're looking for it to sweep above?
Yeah, all it needs to do is sweep. That is your entry, right? So,
But if it doesn't, then your refinement would have been where on the engulfed candle.
you mean that where was my refinement in this area right here? So let me go ahead and show you. Start all the way from the beginning. I'll show you every single refinement that was pretty much possible. So this right here is not a refinement. This is the only valid area of reversal, right? The reason for that being is you see this candle here did not completely engulf the candle before it, right? This candle right here, right? This body closed above this wick low right here. Telling me that the momentum's a little weak, right? So I already know I'm at a disadvantage initially coming into this trade, just due to the price action on the chart. I know that this is my most valid mode of entry, right? You're right. Like you could start entering as soon as we come tap into this POI. You know, I probably would be. Right? You don't really need to get this refinement right here. It's not absolutely necessary. If you're someone who likes the risk like 0.25% in stacked positions, you know, then maybe you could enter here and then eventually get that refinement as well with it. Right? The 13-minute refinement again is just, okay, this candle's the first push. This is the high, right? We want to sweep or see a sweep into the high. That's all. Right? Anything above that sweep right there is our refinement.
Bro, what do you mean when you say sweep? Sorry to interrupt.
No, you're good. What are you confused about?
Yeah. What do you mean when you say sweep? Because I see on the chat you say wait for liquidity to sweep. You mean like to take it fully out or like just tap into it?
I'm waiting for this see this candle right here. Every candle's high and low is liquidity, right? We do not want to identify that liquidity until we have to, right? Because we don't want to be looking at each individual candle and looking at, okay, that's a break, right? That's a sweep back into a break. We don't want to be looking at all of that, right? Simply, we understand the bigger picture based on algo structure, right? We know we just took the current high of the days here. Considering that every candle is liquidity or a range, right? We can understand that this candle right here is a range, right? So this is inducing all of these highs right here. So if these candle highs get swept, right, into these right here, these wick highs right here, that would be considered a refinement or a grab of liquidity, for 13-minute refinement. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah, yeah. Thank you.
All right. Yeah, literally, that's the whole point of algo structure, is to really simplify, the overall moves of price. Because in reality, can you trade just using price action? Sure. I mean, that is somewhat of a retail way to trade, and it kind of works here and there. I mean, if you just simply look here, here's a bullish engulfing, right? And you could theoretically start taking it here. Honestly, it wouldn't even be that bad of an idea. Why? Because we have this algo structure right here telling us that there's internal continuations. This was the continued algo structure high, right? This is a valuable place to, take some longs if you truly wanted to. Then EQD was made, and then once we took out these highs, right, EQD perfectly supported that. There's so much confluence in this entire chart, it's ridiculous. Like, there's just so many things telling us what price is going to do. Like, even wick rejection on the candlestick charts is confluence to me. Like, this tells me that we clearly wicked and rejected. Right, raid and runs. All right, let's talk about the one position I actually got yesterday. It was the only one that I got, and I actually held full volume all the way to here because I was on my plane, right? So I got lucky. That was completely by mistake. I would have taken partials right here, but I started entering this, about an hour before I hopped on my flight, and I was on my flight this entire time. I had about like a 7-8 hour flight. It was a long time, right? And then once I landed, I was like, oh my God. And then I closed out about 70% volume here. I'm actually still hoping that gold might short off a little bit more. I don't really think we're going to have massive buys here. Just basing it off of the daily, like I said before, like, we really do want to be aiming for those previous daily levels. It's not that, it is going to come here. It's just like it's likely to, right? So I want to just consider that and understand that. Because yeah, it still is possible to buy right here. Anyways, how did I take these gold shorts? We simply had that high time frame daily sweep coming in Asia, right? We also had that external liquidity sweep of the PDL the previous day. I mean PDH, previous day highs, right here. So there was double the amount of confluence to tell us that this thing was going short, right? Not only that, I started looking for entries originally in Asia, like right around here. Then Asia kind of just messed me up. So from there, once we had the sweep of the Asian highs and the current high of the day, right, all we had to do was do something similar to what EU did. Right, I moved into the 1 minute. Turn the fractals on. Right, it's the same thing that we've been doing the entire time. This is all fair value gap, right? Worst case scenario, we enter right here on the 10-minute. I remember I had my stops a little looser just because I wasn't sure how the market was going to move. While I was on the plane, I didn't want it to wick just a little bit. So I actually had my stops, generally a little bit higher right there. I was okay with that. It's not going to kill me. This thing melted all the way down regardless and gave me a crazy amount of pips. Yeah, hopefully everybody understands the gold trade as well. The gold trade was actually fairly simple. And then, of course, you could have ping-ponged right back here again. Right. And I'm sure I saw a lot of you trying to do it as well, and that was good. But other than that, that's pretty much all I saw today. I thought GU looked terrible today. I didn't even want to look at it. GU just didn't respect anything as well as I thought it would have. Because this right here told me to take these internal continuations in New York. For some reason New York didn't want to respect it at all. We took these fractal highs on the 15-minute and then shorted off. I didn't see that as a plausible short for me. Didn't really fit my rule set, so I stayed away from this. I would have only taken these buys, and it looked like it didn't present anything down here either. The only thing I probably would have gone on GU is pretty much those internal buys, which most likely would have been a break even. Considering we're buying here and we broke these fractal highs. After we broke these fractal highs, stops to beat E, we would have had a complete break even day on GU most likely.
And Ben,
Yeah.
yeah, what didn't you like with the short?
You mean up here?
No, the next one. You said it didn't fit your rule set.
This right here. I just I don't always care to play fractal sweeps like so. Like this would just be a simple fractal sweep, and you know it still accounts the algo structure. Just it's not where I would consider the main move, right? It just doesn't really follow my plan. Like I only like playing the true clean legs of algo structure. This to me is not a clean leg, right? What I mean by clean leg is like if I zoom out, every high and low that I have marked in clearly has like waves to it. Whereas if I come down here, right, like this to me is just too small of like turbulence, right, to where I just can't consider it. All right, now these shorts right here, a lot of people were asking me actually why these shorts weren't valid. The reason why these shorts weren't valid to me up here was simply because of this external liquidity sweep still bringing bullish momentum into the market. You're probably like, well, we had this high time frame sweep over here. Yes, but because this one took control, right? I would have liked to see a sweep of the high of the day or the external up here to continue this over here. But anyways, now that we've came and we've taken liquidity down here, it looks like we've taken some PDL from right over here. It looks like we can make our way back up to these levels right here to start reversing again. But until that happens. All right, other than that, does anybody have any questions? Because I plan on doing another call probably tomorrow with everyone a little bit more detail per se on the M1 fractals. I want to go a little bit more into M1 fractals. I'm probably gonna get some sleep for a little bit so I have some energy for tomorrow. But yes, did everybody understand? Hopefully, what I really wanted you guys to understand was really this retail deception right here with EU, because this is such a powerful tool to use. And it's really understanding that break and retest that retail is seeing right here on that resistance turn support, right? Like it really is such a powerful indicator that, okay, once we reach these highs right here, we're going to return to that original source and just explode. And that's why we see so much momentum just kick in. Yeah, as long as you guys understand this little aspect right here, that's pretty much what I wanted to get out of today's call. Because as soon as I saw that, I was like, oh my God, this is perfect. I got to explain this to them. Because it doesn't come around often, but when it does, it produces a very high probable move. Even if it's internal liquidity like this. But yeah, it's still the same thing over and over every single day. You're going to see it happening over and over and over every single day. Looks like Bitcoin was making some higher moves today. I'm actually, I was hoping, and I was looking at this before, I was really hoping that this would just start shorting from this point here based off of this. It doesn't look like it wants to do that right now. Bitcoin doesn't really follow technicals from a higher time frame perspective, I notice. It tends to really respect the closer proximity inducements. As we can see here, like Bitcoin still ping pongs really nicely. Here's that retail deception thing I was telling you guys about again. Notice how all of retail is buying along this freaking retest here. They come all the way back down, trap them, and shoot back up, and it creates a powerful move. It just those moves are just so powerful. They're so clean. You can see this that same pattern happening over and over. So everybody always knew. I feel like everybody always knew about that pattern. They just didn't know that it only correlates with internal liquidity, right? Like you can't play it with certain types of liquidity, and that's, I guess, what people are mistaught. Anyways, let me check the chat, see what everybody has. Do I still have the entry helper? Do I still use it? No, not really. I don't really use that anymore. I mean, you can, if you want that added confluence for divergences and POIs. I do use it for that sometimes. I know that NOS 1, yeah, I think NOS 100 did it today. NOS 100 had a nice divergence here. That wouldn't even be the divergence I'd look for. Hold on. I don't like that at all. Never mind. Let me see if I can find something a little better. This would be a little bit better. This is going down while this is coming up. That would be the only really thing I look for on the indicator. I don't really care for it though. It's not really my thing. It does add confluence to traps a little bit, right? Like you can see this traps, right? Retail right here. There's clearly a divergence, right? So that gives a little bit more confluence, I guess. Whereas if we look here, divergence. I guess we can also use it like this too. This is what the lit boys call let, right? That's where we have like a retest on the MA. And here, this adds confluence to all this. So, yeah. Awesome. All right, anybody else have any other questions before I end this call? And I'm probably gonna send it out to everybody. Or is there anything that anybody wants me to go over specifically? All right. Well, with that being said, like I appreciate anybody that came out today. Hopefully y'all learned something a little bit newer in terms of how I see the charts, right? From like a retail perspective, because I feel like that really is the most important part in understanding how they get trapped. Like it clearly shows how retail is getting manipulated in the market. I didn't enjoy reading what y'all are saying in the community chat today, where you're like, we are retail traders, and yeah, we at the end of the day, we still are retail, even though, you know, the whole ideology behind how we trade is trapping quote unquote retail traders. In the eyes of the institutions and anyone else, you know, we still are retail, you know. But yeah, it is interesting to see all this going on in the market, and it will probably continue to work like this for quite a while. I notice it now in the stock market, crypto, it's almost in everything. So yeah, definitely give it a little test out and other instruments besides currencies if you truly like want to do that, but it's fun.
Appreciate your time, bro. One question.
Sure.
I think you've probably gone through it before as well. I remember someone answered me in the chat, but it wasn't quite clear. You know, when you post the analysis, right? So I might have the similar areas marked, but I don't know which ones to take from, right? So here is me like being optimistic on like, okay, next one should be fine. And then I end up missing like the next one as well. So on the, yeah, so like for example, the lines, right? What do the colors represent? And
Are you a Discord member or a video member?
Discord.
That's okay, right? So I in my videos, like in the video mentorship, I explain all the different types of colors, but I can go through it real quick with you. So
Appreciate it.
basically, if you understand how I read liquidity, you can kind of already map out how all this is going to work, right? You see how I sent this idea, and I knew gold was going to short when I sent this idea out, right? I knew once we swept right up here that it was going to just run. Blue is basically the most powerful sweep we can have by far, right? Across any pair. That's because it's the high time frame sweep. Generally, blue daily is your highest time frame sweep, right? It's what's going to give the overall direction for price. Now you can use the weekly. I just choose not to. I prefer the daily, right? Once we had that sweep, we have to understand Asian liquidity. Asian liquidity generally gets taken out. We shouldn't be trading until the highs of the Asia or the lows of Asia get taken out, right? Especially given the time that we're trading really very closely to Frankfurt, you can understand that these highs might get taken out. So as soon as these highs got taken out into the current highs of the day here, that's what orange means, current highs or lows of the day, they can act as a reversal or a continuation. We knew this was going to act as a reversal due to the high time frame bias, right? The high time frame bias was short. We also were constantly sweeping external liquidity from the previous days. We know momentum is slowing down. Red is previous day internal liquidity, right? And I was saying if we respect the high time frame sweep, we should continue, which we did, right?
Okay.
The reason why I knew we would continue here is just all based off of that high time frame analysis. It's like, okay, our bias is short. This is 50% reversals, 50% continuations based off of high time frame in the last external sweep. This is more likely going to be respected as continuations over reversals. It wasn't until here I was like, okay, we're going to come sweep previous day lows, green external, that we're going to start reversing. Here we're doing what? Starting to reverse. I see this little internal pool right here. Like this is where I do bring out the fractals, right? And I do see this little interbank range coming in right here. So there is a good chance we might resist and continue lower and maintain this high time frame perspective. Does that make a little bit more sense, man?
Yeah, very much.
Yeah, I would go.
Your screen is usually smaller than usual. It's irrelevant, but
What's
you
up?
usually have a wider screen, no?
No, yeah, I'm in bed right now, man. I'm usually
okay.
I'm usually like in front of my desk and whatnot, but like I said, I have not slept in a while. So I'm just hanging out in bed today and chilling out because I've been traveling for the most part.
Sounds like you need to catch up on it.
Oh yeah, I'm trying to catch up on some sleep tonight because I didn't even get the trade. Like I said, I didn't get to trade anything I wanted to today. The only thing I caught, I can't be that upset because I still caught like the biggest move of the day. I still caught gold, but you know, EU was just so clean. I wish I was able to trade EU. Like again, I was awake around this area here, and I shut my eyes for like 2 seconds and I missed all this. But it happens.
Exactly.
Still was able to catch gold, and that's still smacked. So it was still a good trade. But yeah, just to learn a little bit more about internal and external liquidity in the educator charts, I give a pretty detailed explanation to it in GJ and how we pretty much use.
By the way, are you still giving those what's it called, the PDFs?
Like the daily cycle and stuff. You know, people have been asking me for those PDFs and whatnot. And the thing about these are like they're kind of dated. Like I don't want to give you information that's dated for the most part. Meaning like it's just, I think it's just going to be information overload.
It's irrelevant.
What's that?
Is it like not relevant anymore?
It's not that it's not relevant. It's just you don't really need it, and you know I don't want to over.
Okay.
I want to give you anything that's not really that needed. There are three daily cycle patterns that I do teach. There are like three daily cycle patterns that I do teach, but they're very simple. It's like for example, the one that I see here is just simply an Asian break and retest. Right. The other one, this is also break and retest right here. Continuations of that break and retest. Right. What do you call this? Is the Judas swing?
Yep. The ICT thing. I
Yeah.
remember.
OG variant, MMM variant. It's really nothing important in my opinion in the daily cycle. The daily cycle used to be important for me. It used to be a key factor in my trading, especially when I was trading London. You can see it just doesn't work as much anymore. Where okay, here's the sweep of the lows. Now we're expecting that to rocket, but no, we're just gonna get another sweep and then another sweep. Like the market just sweeps a lot more than it used to. It's occasional where we're gonna see that hit of the lows then run, but you can see it's just not like that every time. Right, so that's why
The things slow down as well. What's it called? The APM, the daily pip range for the markets. Maybe it's changing
ADR?
recently, but like GU, I remember I used to do like 141, 160 on a typical day. No, it does about 60 to 70 pips.
That's a seasonal thing sometimes, is what I noticed. Sometimes that's seasonal. We will get more volume kick in at certain points. But kind of like how December we don't see that much volume, whereas January it kicks in that first week. But ADR, you can't really tell what causes it. It could be something fundamental. It could be what's going on in the market making world. I have no idea. It's not something we can control. All we can do is just read price.
Okay.
Oh, Ben, I
Thank
had
you
a
for the
question.
explanation.
Yeah.
Can you hear me? My bad.
Yeah.
So like when you trade on the 1 minute, right? So you use fractals, and then do you pay attention to like the current session like inducements, like the liquidity that's being built, or do you focus more on the higher time frame? If you know what I'm talking about.
I wouldn't recommend using fractals until you can fully understand algo structure.
Okay.
I mean, the reason why is because a lot of people are going to try and start using them when they see that I'm using them, and all that's going to make you start doing is it's going to make you start doing this. You're going to come in, and you're going to start doing this with every single high and low. That's exactly what I don't want.
Yeah, that's what kind of I'm doing. That's kind of like what my question was. I don't really know how to use the fractals like correctly.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Don't use them. And I mean, I would really stick to just the main structure of the market that I'm showing, because as you can see, that's where the main moves occur, right? Because otherwise, you're gambling a bit, trying to understand that, like, okay, you're gonna grab this fractal wick to whatever this fractal wick is. It's too hard to predict, right? And the RR isn't crazy. You're not grabbing the overall moves. You're grabbing like 1 to 2s. In reality, when you're trading like that's just not worth it. That's just what's advertised on the internet, is that you can trade like that because it is possible. It's not sustainable.
Yeah. No, you're right. Yeah, because I'm still trying to backtest the thing I remember I sent you on the Telegram. The things I was backtesting. I'm still trying to refine it.
Yeah, I mean, you can refine on the fractals on the M1. That I like, but that's because that's methodical, right? Like that's objective.
Yeah.
You have to understand that your win rate goes down on the M1.
Yeah, a lot. Yeah, that's what I noticed.
But your RR increases, right? So it kind of evens out in a way. But right, see, this would be an okay M1 refinement. It's that same thing, sweep, break a structure, last candle to sweep. That makes sense. That's a good trade. It just GU is terrible today. That's the only really way I use fractals now, is just sweep, BOS, return after we have what I just showed you complete its cycle, right? After algo
Got you.
does its thing.
Hmm.
All
So,
right.
one more question. My bad, Ben. So, do you only look for your setups from 7 to 11, right? In your time zone for New York?
I generally have my graphs set up right before I go to bed. And
Yeah.
all I have to do that morning is mark up the internal liquidity.
Got you. Okay, that makes sense.
Because that way I understand where the market might. You should always look at the market before you go to bed. And I don't know. You're in Texas, right? Can't remember. Maybe I'm wrong. But the night before or whatever, like a couple hours before, I would just have your graphs marked up in some sort of way. Just so you understand what price is doing and you're not completely lost.
And I have one last question.
Yeah.
You see, okay, on GU, if you go on the hourly, is it E? I don't think it's GU actually. Oh, it's EU. Sorry.
No worries.
You see the Asia, the top of Asia, that 1 hour candle there to the left on the previous day, Asia high, the 1 hour candle that gets engulfed with imbalance. Would you not consider that a continuation of order flow once price reaches back into it? Because it broke structure in a sense.
No, I see what you're saying. I don't like taking POIs like this, but I know people that do.
Yeah, as I say, Raymond played off of it. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah, I know people that do. I don't care for this, but you can see we still would have gotten the position right here,
Yeah, true.
right? And we actually would have gotten an even tighter refinement. It's they both show the same things, right? This to me is just the confirmation of this.
Yeah. Fair enough.
But we also would have gotten the buys. Like we would have, like I
Yeah,
said,
S&P traders wouldn't have gotten the bias. They would
yeah,
have
I literally
probably-
play every single move. We hit the buys, right? We could have hit the continuations here into the sells, right back into the buys, right? Perhaps you could have picked up more sells right here, right? Now we're waiting to pick up maybe more sells right here. Like I'm looking for every main move to occur.
Fair enough.
Yeah, and I'm using every piece of confluence that I can to my advantage.
Yeah, I see that.
All right, well, I'm gonna make a couple more educator charts tonight because a lot of y'all have been telling me that's been helping. So I'll do that. I'll make a couple of it. Honestly, I might make a YouTube video tonight rather than breakdowns. I haven't done anything for the YouTube community for a little bit.
Ben, one more thing. You know the backtesting video? Because I know there's like different ways of backtesting. Obviously, you've probably got your own way that's not the same as everyone else's. Do you mind? I don't know if you want to share it on YouTube or if you want to keep it within our community to the people who are playing.
Backtesting is not a secret. You know, I'm not going to charge people.
True.
You know,
But is there a different way of like how you do it? Is it just a normal simple way of going into replay mode? Or
I never use replay. I think replay is gonna you're not gonna learn the logic through replay. You're gonna learn how to handle your emotions through replay. You want to be able to develop logic in your back testing by going out, right, and noticing, why did price have a significant drop from this point here? And you want to find every little piece of information. Oh, well, it's because we swept these highs. Oh, you want to go back and identify where some of these moves, right, where the lows of the day were created and why they were created there. Highs of the day, lows of why were these all created here?
Okay, that's pretty much how I backtest. Yeah, I don't bother do replay mode. I think it's pointless as well.
Awesome.
It doesn't show you the market for what it is.
Yeah, I'm gonna do another video on retail deception. It's actually gonna be really helpful for you all as well because I don't really use it, but it can be helpful as added confluence. But I'm gonna do retail deception on chart patterns. We'll see how that goes. All right. With that being said, I'm probably gonna go ahead and end the one out an hour. At this point, we're close to it. But if y'all have any questions about what we went over in today's session, just feel free to reach out. And if you didn't, for example, if you didn't get your question answered today, just shoot me it on Telegram and I'll try and get to it as soon as possible. With that being said, I'm going to go ahead and end this now. But yeah, thank you again to everyone that came and hope that you learned something new. See you.